So they're going to look at all their portfolios of work. And you can see here, nice, simple dashboard that is configurable, so you can adjust the dashboard how you want that to work, how the information you want. But as a portfolio manager, I can quickly see what are all the projects that I currently have that are active or in the early stages of work. What's the status of those particular projects? What's the health of that project? What's the schedule? Is it on time? Is it over or under budget? And we can visually, using the nice red, green, yellow concept, actually see what's happening from that project within the portfolio. And I can look at any of my projects and get a clear visibility. I can also understand, are there issues, risks, escalations that I need to be concerned about? And I can drill into any of these projects and look at what are they, and we'll walk through that. How am I tracking from a budget side of things? So what percentage of allocated budget is remaining for those projects? And we can see we've got a few that are getting low. And then any projects that are on time or not on time and not the budget. So again, we could see that information, and that would be our employee enablement project. So as a portfolio manager, what do we look at from a portfolio? So when we're setting up a portfolio, we're setting up multiple things. So one is the visibility of what's all the projects in my portfolio. The next is it aligning with any strategic objectives that we might have as an organisation? So here I've listed all my strategic objectives so I can easily see what should I be able to track against. And then linking those portfolios of work to potentially that strategic objective. So here we have a portfolio for our digital transformation of our IT systems. And we've given it a name, who owns it, what's the start and end date that we hope to be able to work against, and then what's that primary strategic objective that we're working towards. Now, within a portfolio, one of the key aspects of the portfolio is looking at it from, what do I have from a budget side of things? So typically it's the pool of money that's going to be handed out to all the projects or programs that we work within there. And then how are we tracking from an hour side of things? So within a portfolio, we can also track our effort, and we track our efforts that we've put across all the demands, projects, programs of work. We can manage the schedule, budget, and portfolio. Now, typically this would be at you're typically looking at this as a project or a program of work, but you can also look at it as, how am I tracking at that health side of things? So am I looking good? How do I want to do that? I can update that on a regular basis. Now, as a portfolio work, I want to understand what programs are happening or what projects are occurring. Now, in this particular case, I've got two programs of work that I'm managing that are running in parallel. One is looking at it from an internal IT systems, and the other is looking at it from our customer-facing IT systems. And we'll jump into the programs of work in a little bit. Or we could just have directly projects related to that. So it could be a project that's just straight linked to a portfolio. In this case, we're linking that out to have those two programs of work that we want to manage. Then you also have that view of the demands. And we'll look at demands in just a minute. But looking at demands as saying, okay, what's come in? What ideas do we have that are coming in that are linked to this portfolio? And we can see that we want to upgrade the CRM system. So that's come in as an idea, and we can look at what that looks like when it comes in as an idea. And we've also got another one that's going through that evaluation stage. And what we saw here was our transformation of financial systems, which is a demand that's moved on to be part of a program of work or a project. We can see how much it's going to cost us and what the effort is that we believe is in there. And we can track that back to our finances. So finances are going to come out of our budgets. We might have multiple budgets or a single budget allocated to that. We can see what our total portfolio for the budget is, what we've allocated, what's available, and if we've consumed anything at that point. So we can track our finances for our portfolio. So as we talked about, when we're looking at what we want to do, we want to manage things to a budget and make sure we're financially correct. We can do that at the portfolio level. And then what are the budgets we have allocated across that entire, in this case, that entire portfolio? Any risks or issues at the portfolio level? Who are our key stakeholders that might be working within the solution? Those key stakeholders will typically be interested parties, maybe people who are financing the solutions, or it could be approvals required from those particular stakeholders. So let's look at it from a portfolio side. So now let's go and look at this from a demand, where the ideas come into our solution and where we start to look at, what are the pieces of work that we want to look at and work across. So I'm going to go into my demand management as a demand manager, and they're looking at it purely from a demand management side of things. Now you could have those as merge role depending on your organisation. And here you have a demand dashboard. And again, you've got unique dashboards based on what the role is or what you're working on. But you can look at multiple dashboards. So I could select from this list and look at different dashboards within what I have available to me. But I can see where the demands are by status. So I've got 4 that are in the idea stage, 7 that are been evaluated. And I can look at what those demands are. And we can look at what we've got here, which is our upgrading of the CRM system, any of the demands that may be waiting for me to approve, and then what do I currently have from a demand viewpoint. So anything that I'm working on or anything that might be part of my demands. So I'm going to go into this one, which is I want to implement IT monitoring across my hybrid environment. And when I drill into this particular demand, we can start to look at what does the demand look like when we actually drill into that. So the first thing is it'll come in as an idea. So an idea could come in multiple ways. We could have that maybe on a self-service portal. We could have it as an email. We could just type it in. It doesn't really matter how a demand comes in. It's really saying, here's something that we need to do. When do we start and end that? Hoping to start and end that demand. Who do we think it might be allocated to? And it's some fairly straightforward information. I want to understand, and a common terminology within demand management is t-shirt size. And all that's saying is, how big do we think it is? Is it a small project, a large, or medium type project? What area is it that associated to? So it might be something that's directly linked to, if you're in a healthcare, it might be linked to your clinical aspects of the business. Do we have any estimates on costs and revenue at this point? And then are we linking that to a portfolio or a strategic objective? But they could be just a straight project. It could be a defect that we have to put in. It could be an enhancement. It could be smaller projects that we need to run within that. And what type are they? So as an initial stage, we're really just looking at it from, we just want an idea and how do we do that? But within demand management, we can then roll that through different phases. So if I move that into an evaluate stage, you can see we're now looking at different information. And what is that different information we want to track against, and what do we need to put in there? Now I'm going to look at a slightly different project that's just had a bit more information put against it at that evaluate stage, so we can see what that looks like. And in this particular case, we're looking at that from the point of view of we're rolling in SAP, and we want to understand how SAP is laid out across our business. So how do we actually want to understand our SAP environment, because it's crucial to the organisation. And you'll see we're in that evaluate stage, we've got different information here. And what we look at when we're building out a demand is the resourcing side of things, the budget, risks, benefits, cost savings, all the different things that we might want to look at. And we'll so quickly go through that. So the first thing we can do is just look at, what are the different stages that are going to be part of this project. We're not looking at resourcing it in detail. It's not allocating particular tasks to anyone. It's just really going through and saying, these are the different phases that we know we're going to have. And within each of those phases, we might then have resources that we want to have, or resource roles of types that we want to have in there. What we call that is a resource plan. So within the resource plan, we say we need an architect, an asset manager, and procurement manager. But we haven't got our project manager, so I'm going to add in a project manager into this particular project. And so we think for that phase of the project, we only want them for 20 hours. And we'll have them from a certain amount of time. And that timing doesn't really matter so much, it's more the effort hours that we're talking about it here. And what that's going to do is calculate that resource hours, and now we've got our estimated effort is added to that particular project phase.